Welcome to another Ark Survival Guide. This guide will show you 15 of the best base locations in the new Crystal Isles map coming to Ark on June 11th. I know we all can't wait to play the stunning Crystal Isles map, but while you wait, you can get ready for your adventure by using this video to help you pick out the perfect base locations for you. I will show you the map and GPS coordinates for each base location and show you how to easily find them on the massive new Ark map. I have picked out my top 15 places to live on the Crystal Isles based on locations that are safe and easy to defend against dinosaurs and players, places that are rich in valuable resources, locations with easy access to water, and some locations that are just plain beautiful. I found several epic base locations for huge alpha tribes, perfect PvE base locations, and some great Crystal Isles PvP base locations that will be easy to hide and defend from players. I will also show you some cool secrets I discovered on the Crystal Isles map that you probably don't already know about, and since this will be a long video, I'm trying out the new YouTube chapters feature, so you can check the description of this video for links directly to each of the best base locations with a short description. You can also use the sections in the video progress bar if you want to jump around to a biome you want to live in, or a type of base location you're interested in. Also, as a quick disclaimer, this guide is based on the best locations in the mod version of Crystal Isles, but there may be significant changes in the final official release version of the Crystal Isles map. You can build in all of these base locations on the mod version, but building could be disabled in some locations, some dinosaur spawns may change, and some caves may be extended or closed up with the final release. Because of this, I plan to make a new guide on the best base locations in the official Crystal Isles map once that is released, so check the description and video information cards after June 11th for links to that guide. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and ring the bell for all notifications so you will be notified when that guide comes out, along with lots of other helpful content that I will be making when the official Crystal Isles map comes out. Also, please give this video a thumbs up if it helps you, and drop a comment to tell me which of these base locations are your favorites and where you plan to live when the Crystal Isles is officially released. Or if you know of any other epic base locations I haven't covered, I would love to see the coordinates so I can add that to my list on the next guide. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started. Now this is probably my favorite base location in all of the Crystal Isles, and for a lot of reasons, but bear in mind I'm showing you this on the mod version, and while you can build in here on the mod version, I'm not 100% sure what you'll be able to build in on the final release. So here's the spot where you can access this secret cave. You're going to look for this waterfall and crystal formation right here on the edge of the floating islands, and here's the location where you can first get into this cave. This cave is amazing. Now, usually with ruins like this, you take I think 6 times damage, so not sure I recommend this on PvP, although there are some spots where you can hide quite effectively in this area. So it's beautiful, you've got awesome ruins and lots of space in here, but first of all, you've got pearls right here in these little pools. There's probably 15-20 pearl spawns right there, and there's some other ones in here too. Now you've got this really awesome easily fortified area, but once again you're going to take extra damage in PvP, and you also have this beautiful architecture and art, but he's pointing at this artifact, so that could be a problem if you're on a PvP server, so bear that in mind. But this place is massive, it's beautiful, it doesn't have a lot of resources in this section, but if you hole up in here, it has got infinite water, tons of metal, and I'll show you a crazy secret metal location in here in just a minute. But there's all these areas you can expand and build on. Now there's an upstairs area that goes all the way around this temple section. Now apparently in the final version the rock drakes will be gone, which is great because this area is currently infested in rock drakes on the mod version. Now upstairs we've got a big area even outside where you should be able to build, and I don't know if it'll give you the ruins debuff to your structure damage out here, but you can easily block off just 3 entrances and this entire cave area is totally secure. Now there's another whole section up here where you can build. And once again, these rock drakes doing Sonic the Hedgehog maneuvers will be gone. But check this out. This whole section up here also has plenty of snails, which is actually pretty cool if they stay in here. But there's plenty of room all over with a very flat area that you can build up here. Lots of rocks you can harvest. Not a lot of trees, once again. But this whole section is almost invisible. It's really hard to see if somebody's coming down here, and you can actually hole up here pretty well and not even be noticed by most people. So that's a really cool area, but check this out. This pool back here is actually hiding some really good resources too. So it's just to the side of this dragon statue. You've got a little pool with some stairs going down, and once again, it's great to have water nearby. But that shiny stuff is actually rich metal deposits, huge rich metal deposits, and the floor is just covered in pearls. So this is great as it is, but if we keep going down this tunnel, you can actually take an ankylosaur underwater and it moves faster than it moves on land, as long as you're, keeping an eye on its oxygen. Don't want to drown your ankylosaurs. But if we keep going down this tunnel, there are loads of metal deposits right down here towards the end. And it's far enough down this underwater tunnel that you probably won't be blocking the metal respawns when you build up here, which is great. The downside is you got to be real careful not to drown your ankylosaurs, but they're actually surprisingly good swimmers. And by the time we get to the end of this tunnel, there are just massive rich metal deposits. Like, you will not run out of metal anytime soon if you live up here. And this might actually be the #1 richest metal deposits in the Crystal Isles, believe it or not. So I'll show you the coordinates of the back door real quick, and this whole area is totally flat and quite buildable as long as you can avoid the ruins debuff. But here we go, this is the back door, and there's 2 little tiny cave entrances right there that you can block off, and then the third one is actually right here around the corner, and right down below this ledge is the other entrance, right there, right next to those crystals. They kind of have an arrow that points the way there. So up on top here is actually a really great base location too. They'll be filling this out when they finish the map, but there's actually a lot of resources and water right up on top too. So if you don't want to build quite next to the ruins, all of these areas are going to be great places to build a totally flat base. Once again, they have said that they will actually fix the rock drake problem, so we won't have these invisible Sonic the Hedgehog things going around killing everything. There's also a lot of little nooks and crannies around these ridges where you can squeeze in and, like right here, check this out. It's got just enough room to put, say, a couple storage boxes and have a little cache for some of your best items, maybe some cryopods of your best dinos, and if you're playing PvP, that'll be real hard to spot and raid if anybody's coming after you. So there's a lot of good little base locations around here where you can just have some nooks and crannies to squeeze some things in, and should be totally rock drake free in the final version. So another cool spot is actually down here below the waterfalls, and right here, it's hard to see, but at the edge of this waterfall there's a little spot which once again might be patched up in the final version, but right now you can squeeze in here and this is actually buildable on the modded version too. So a lot of cool little spaces around here. I haven't fully explored every base location around this area, but, a lot of cool stuff you can get into. And at the base of these huge waterfalls, it's actually one of my favorite spots. This is actually a really cool spot to build a base, too. This would be, very small but very fun. But right here is one of my favorite glitches in the entire game, and, I'm sure they'll fix this on the final version, but you have this huge lake with some weird stuff swimming around in it, right? I just have to show you guys this while we're here. So the base of all these waterfalls, it's a fake lake. I mean, we've got stuff just walking around down here, a couple seagulls flying in the lake. I mean, just cool stuff. So I really wanted to show you guys that before it's gone forever. Now, we're actually right at the bottom of the waterfalls that hide probably my favorite alpha base location in the Crystal Isles map, which we'll show you next. So here is one of the best Alpha Tribe bases in the Crystal Isles map. This location is amazing for an Alpha Tribe, and it's actually right next to these ruins. So if nobody's blocked off these ruins, you could still come back here and pick up all the rich resources that are back in the ruins and get ridiculous amounts of metal, and then cart it back to your awesome Alpha Tribe base back here. So this is one of the entrances. It's got a couple small entrances to, secure if you're living back here, but here's one of the entrances right there. And it looks relatively narrow, but these caves open up into a massive cavern that an Alpha Tribe could very happily live in. And there's not a ton of resources in the cave right now, but it's probably because it's totally unfinished. I don't know what kind of spawns or resources will end up back here in the finished version, but it just keeps going forever back into these caves. And, we may end up having some artifacts. They may make it not buildable. This could actually be, more of an exploration cave. But if it stays the way it is, it's going to be amazing for an Alpha Tribe. Now, there's a lot of little nooks and crannies like this one, totally dark. You could actually hide some storage stuff back here, get some of your good loot caches and things like that. But this whole area is just huge, and there's actually a good water supply at the very bottom. It also comes with a cool crystal chandelier that gives light to the whole cave, so, we'll see how this turns out when it's totally finished, but this is a massive cavern, and it's got plenty of room to spread out, and I don't think even a huge Alpha Tribe could use all this space, so this is definitely going to be one of the best base locations in the Crystal Isles map, and I would say for PvP or PvE. So we'll have to see how they do with being buildable and all of that stuff, but definitely highly recommend checking this out. And once again, make sure you subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to enable all notifications, because I will be doing an update on this video as soon as the final version of the Crystal Isles map comes out, and I'll let you guys know if this is still buildable and what it looks like in here. But, I gotta be honest, this is an amazing area, and certainly got a great view, so I highly recommend checking this out for your Alpha Tribe base location on the Crystal Isles map. So next I'll show you one of my favorite starter base locations on the Crystal Isles map, and this is going to be a really easy place to start, very safe, but also big enough for an Alpha Tribe as well. Now this is probably my absolute favorite starter base location on the Crystal Isles map, and it's one of my favorite overall base locations. It is in a great area right next to the ocean. I love this beach biome here in the Crystal Isles, and this is the biggest mountain range in this entire biome. It is beautiful, it's got a great view, but most importantly, it is massive and it's flat. It has steep cliffs on all sides, so it's almost impossible for attackers to climb up here, and there's only one good access point. One ramp leads up to the top of these mountains, so if you can block off that ramp and defend it, basically the entire plateau is completely safe. Also, if the spawns are anything like they are on the modded version, the only dangerous stuff I've seen up here is just a couple Dilophosaurs, which are so easy to deal with. Now, it has 3 metal locations, and this is the first one. You've got lots of metal spawning on top here. It's got lots of trees and lots of stone, and this top ridge here is actually enough to support a very big tribe. If you just block off this one section right here that has these 2 little paths that lead up to it. So that entire plateau is totally safe if you just make one little section blocked off. And this path winds all the way around the mountain, and there's also a second tier on this whole area, and this, if you can expand onto that, will make plenty of room for a full Alpha Tribe. Now there's another section of metal right here, lots of metal spawns there, and this is one of the best things about this base. It has a water source right up here you can easily access, and it's actually a pool instead of just a well, so you don't have to do anything, you just got water right away. There's also lots of little crystal spawns, and there's a second section of metal right here. So overall, if you're careful about where you build your buildings and you don't block the metal spawns, you can have 3 huge metal sections that just, respawn constantly while you live up here. So there are pros and cons to having a base that's really hard to access. It's going to be hard to get up here in the first place, but I'll teach you a quick trick that'll get you up here with no trouble, even if you've just started playing, and you can avoid the really dangerous way I'm about to show you. But if you want to take any land dinos up here, you're usually going to have to take this long path that winds all the way down the mountain, and it's pretty safe up here, but this is the problem. This whole forest is basically covered in swamp creatures, so you're going to have sarcos and capros patrolling this whole area, and it gets real dangerous. So here's the location of the access point, and this is the only ramp that goes up this mountain. If you can defend this, Crocs will do most of that for you, but if you can defend this area, you can pretty much keep this whole place safe. Now, you can access this from the beach, and you only have to run past a couple Crocs, so you could probably make it on foot when you're first starting out, but it's kind of nice that it has oceans all the way around it, so all over the place you can sail a raft. Now, we do have whales on this map, which is going to be a problem, at least in the mod version, but they may fix that a little bit in the final version, and I have a feeling they won't be accessing this shallow area as much as they do right now. Now, you can technically build up this little area and try to get up there too, but the best way to access this if you're a new player is to come over to this section, which is also a really cool spot to build a starter base. But right here, you have to build maybe 2 stories high. Here's the location right here. You could even use thatch and storage boxes to climb your way up there if you make some really crude stairs. But if you can get up this one little ledge, and then climb a little bit up this mountain, there's one more ledge to get onto, and then from there it's smooth sailing. You can just access this whole plateau. So as long as you can build your way up just a little bit, you can run to that section and then just hop 1 tier higher, and you've got access to this entire area. Another cool thing is right below this spot that I'm at right now, it has a lot of oil nodes down in the ocean, and it's deep enough to make a full water pen. You can get just about any water dino underneath there. So that's another cool feature of this area. There's also lots of pearls, and in those plateaus over there, there's just probably 50 pearl deposits. Also, really close by here, you can find some other cool little spots you could build, but there are beavers, at least in the modded version, right around here. So as long as you can handle the crocs and all the other crazy stuff you'll see swimming in the water, there we go, there's a beaver right there. So one of my favorite things to do early in the game is tame a beaver, and if you can get your hands on a beaver, even if you're not high enough level to use it, you can actually get it to harvest passively and get just stupid amounts of wood and all the materials you need for starting out. So if you can tame a beaver, you can level up stupidly fast and just knock down an entire forest really quickly. And I've got some guides on how to do that. Check the description. So there's also some cool stuff in this swampy area, but most of the creatures in here are swamp creatures. So you're going to have a hard time running around in here at first, but pretty cool location. And here is the other thing about this. It has crystal wyverns, tropical crystal wyverns, spawn right next to it down at the end of this forest. Now that's either going to be amazing or terrible depending on what they actually change about the crystal wyverns. They have confirmed they will no longer be a passive tame, but I'm still hoping they are still neutral, meaning they won't aggressively fly around and try to kill you. If they are aggressive, and if they do fly all the way up to this mountain, that could put a damper on this base location altogether. But if they remain neutral, it could actually be really helpful to have them nearby. So here's the location again of my favorite starter base location on the Crystal Isles map, where you can live very happily for a long time without ever coming down the mountain. So this is one of the craziest base locations in the Crystal Isles map. It's here in the Redwood forests, and it's pretty hard to spot. There's just a couple little cave entrances, and it's got these green crystals growing on the outside of the cave entrances, so that's going to actually help you find it. But this is known as the Honey Cave or Bee Cave or something like that. One of my subscribers actually showed me this during a live stream, and I was so grateful for that. But check this out. It's got a small entrance to this massive cave, and it is full of honey and queen bees. Now, I'm sure they'll change some things during the final version, and the bees might be a little different, but I'm not really sure how this is going to work as far as can you harvest the honey? Will there be, infestations of bees everywhere that you can easily tame? But if you're into getting honey, which is actually an extremely good resource in Ark, this is a great place to grab that. And you can also spread out down here. Once again, on the mod version, it's still buildable, but we'll see if it stays that way during the final version. But down here, there's actually some good crystals, and there is a entrance to a long underwater tunnel that is one of the best locations to get pearls in the entire Crystal Isles map. Now, there's a lot of places you can get pearls, and I've showed you several of them all over some of these base locations, but if you want to just take one run and get a couple hundred to a few hundred pearls really easily, that cave is actually one of the best places to do that. Now, here's the other entrance. Might be the first entrance. There's a couple of them. It's hard to tell in here. But this place is kind of crazy. There's just 2 spots to block off, and then you've got all of that space to build in. And also on top of this area is a pretty good spot too. There's actually a lot of flat plateau up here, and there's one more little ceiling you could block off if you want to have flyers not be able to come into your base. But check out this plateau. It's actually a pretty great base location too. There's a lot of flat areas up here, and it's pretty hard to get to. I think there's just one ramp to block off if you want to have this entire plateau totally secure. And if you're into the Redwoods, which I'm personally not, but this is actually a pretty cool place to live in the Redwoods. And I think right about here, if you block off this spot, you've got metal nodes you can harvest, and a lot of good stuff up here. So definitely check out this location. And now let me show you what the underwater cave is like if we go and explore that. Now, I spawned in a dolphin because I would drown halfway through this cave, because this cave is crazy massive, and we'll go in fast motion so you can actually get an idea of how big this cave is. But I probably passed 500 pearls worth of clams down here. So if you get some Lazarus chowder and then just go swimming in here, you can get a basically unlimited supply of pearls, and it just keeps going all the way out to the ocean, and I'll show you where that ends up right here. So, once again, this is a very strange base location. I don't know if I really recommend it, but I thought I'd show it to you guys just in case you're interested. It's pretty crazy. So now I'll show you one of the best alpha base locations in the north. There's a snow biome cave that's even bigger than the one in the floating jungles, and it's a massive cave system with probably enough room for a couple alpha tribes. It's crazy. Now, this is probably one of the best base locations in the Crystal Isles map for an alpha tribe, and even this spot's got some pretty good flat plateaus, but what I'm most interested in is a massive cave system at the bottom of this mountain. Now, this whole section of the Arctic on the Crystal Isles map is totally unfinished, so I'm sure we'll see a lot of changes, but even right here is a pretty cool section right at the water, so you can take a boat right up to this entrance, and this is really more the back door of this massive cave system. Now, this just goes on forever. On the mod version, sometimes right about here you fly through the top of the map and you pop up on top of the mountain, but if you explore these caves, they just keep going on forever. There's even a tunnel in the end of this cave system that goes underwater, and right now it just goes off into the oblivion of unfinishedness, so I'm sure that'll change in the final version. But I really have no idea what it's going to be like back here, but I do know there is enough space to put several alpha tribes without really getting in each other's way. This really cool cavern here actually has a lot of entrances and exits, but there's one section that goes into an even bigger cavern, and once again, cool crystal chandeliers, lots of ice, and I'm getting totally lost just exploring this cave system. But check this out. This actually goes into a tunnel which goes out to I don't even know where. It just goes on forever. And this section of the map on the modded version is not even done. So I'll show you that in the updated base locations video that I'll do later once the Crystal Isles map officially releases. But here we are back in that main chamber, and if we head up to this section, there is another even bigger cavern in here. Now this is probably the main base that an alpha tribe would actually look for. This section is massive. There is plenty of space if you use this base location for an alpha tribe. A couple little spots that are still not quite finished, but there is so much space to build in here. There's lots of little water pockets where you can have a water supply. I don't know if anything's going to be in here or what's going to be in here, or even if it's going to be buildable once again, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be one of the best Alpha Tribe base locations in the entire Crystal Isles map. And let's see if we can find our way out of here, because I keep getting totally lost because this cave system is so big. But it basically expands throughout the entire mountain of this snow biome. So here we go. This is probably going to be the main entrance for most bases around here. And there's actually some good metal deposits right at the entrance here. But it's at the bottom of the huge waterfall right here. This is basically where most people will probably be entering this giant base location. But check it out, there's actually some really good spots to build, totally flat on either side of this waterfall, and a huge lake up at the top of this mountain too. But as you can see, this entire section of this mountain is basically all hollow. Here's another entrance right here, and you can go back into the other waterfall that will also get you into this base location. So this place is crazy, it's massive. Definitely check it out, definitely subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to enable all notifications, because I will be doing a new base tour of this area of the Crystal Isles when they finally finish the release version of the Crystal Isles map, which will be on June 11th now, so keep an eye out for that. And let's see, right here is another little tunnel, and there's another one over here. This is the original place that we went into these caverns, so just crazy huge caverns back inside here. So now I'll show you another amazing base location to get stupid amounts of metal and crystal on the Crystal Isles map. But this will depend a lot on how the final Crystal Isles map turns out in the release version. Now we'll make this next Crystal Isles map base location guide section pretty quick, because a lot of things could change how good a base location this is. Now this is a small island, totally flat, so it's a great spot to build and live, but it's very short on resources. And also, depending on how the lead sichthies or whales spawn in, you might end up with an alpha whale just living right off your back porch, which is never a good thing if you live on an island. But if the whale problem is not too bad on the final version of Crystal Isles, this spot right here could actually be amazing. Now the biggest reason I like this spot is because it is such a short trip to get to one of the best metal and crystal locations on the entire Crystal Isles map. Now any of these plateaus would also be very good viable places to build your factory, but this is actually a great area if you want to just harvest massive amounts of metal and crystal. So right around here is a path right up to the coast, right across from that little island. So this spot right here is one of the best metal and crystal locations on the Crystal Isles map, and I'll show you why that is right here. So if you come up underneath this little overhang, which once again any of these plateaus above here would also be great base locations, maybe even better than that island. There's a ton of metal deposits right down here, and if you're careful not to block them off, you could have some really good metal deposits too. But what I'm really interested in is the limitless supply of crystal in this secret cave right here. So as we go further in, there's a little cave totally hidden by vines. Now it's currently, right here, it's currently totally buildable on the mod version. But there is an artifact inside, which could have heavy ramifications depending on what you end up doing. So check out all this crystal. There's actually lots of clams, so there's tons of pearls in here too. But currently you're allowed to build in this little crystal cave, and it goes back really far. It goes all the way through this mountain, and we'll speed this up so you can see the whole cave. But once again, you do have to be careful, because even though there are only 2 entrances to block off, there is an artifact currently in here. So if you're playing PvP PvP or PvE even online, you could get in big trouble for blocking off the artifact location. But if it all works, you could have a really nice, easily fortifiable cave, and even though it's not very wide, it goes really deep through this mountain, and it actually comes out in the jungle section. So, a lot of pros and cons to this depending on how it turns out on the final version, but if you need to pop in here to get some crystal, you can get all the crystal you need. It's ridiculous. So now I'll show you another amazing spot right next to this location, which is great for a huge alpha tribe with an amazing view. Now we're going to breeze through this base location for the Crystal Isles map, because even though it is an amazing Alpha Tribe base location, it's actually pretty self-explanatory. So this is one of the highest peaks in the entire Crystal Isles map, and it's actually right next to that island I just showed you in the last section, very close to that crystal cave with unlimited crystal resources. Now this whole plateau is almost completely flat, and it actually has a well location right here. I always like to have a water source because it's not going to be monsooning all day long on the Crystal Isles finished version of the map, just the mod version. But check this out, there's one little section right here you could easily block off, and then lots more, but this plateau just has a very slight slope that goes all the way down this mountain, so the only way to access it on land is some very small narrow passageways, and then you've got this entire plateau to build on. So you could very easily defend it from any land attacks, and it's just a massive area to build. Now, there's not a ton of trees and rocks, but it's definitely a decent amount, and I don't see a whole lot of metal up here, but it's still a pretty great spot to spread out if you have a huge alpha tribe that wants to just have massive amounts of space. And as you can see, nothing's going to get up here as long as it doesn't go up this ramp, so very easy to defend. So hopefully that'll help for any alpha tribes, and here's the location of the ramp that leads up here. So now let's talk about probably the best base location in the Volcano area of Crystal Isles. Now, I'm not personally a fan of living in the volcanic areas because they're usually crazy dangerous, and that's just not really my thing. But if you want to have an evil lair complete with liquid hot magma, this is actually a pretty great place to live. Now, the volcanic area is going to be really dangerous, but this plateau is actually one of the safest spots around here. And it not only has relatively safe dinos on the mod version anyway, but it's completely blocked off on all sides. It's actually a pretty big little plateau. There is a river, so you've got a good water source, and there's actually lots of clams in the river, so if you're careful not to block the respawns, you could actually get a lot of pearls right here in the volcano, which is pretty cool. There's also a lot of obsidian down at the base of this plateau, so you can get lots of resources, but the only way to get up here is this one ramp, which is easy to defend. Now in the mod version, these phoenix that spawn all over the place are a big problem, but they've confirmed they will be removing these during the final version of the Crystal Isles map. So there's also a good bit of space where there's a pool of water at the bottom and lots of obsidian spawns all over here. So if you want a nice view of the volcanic waterfalls, this is a great base location for you. So now let's show you one of the best base locations in the desert area of Crystal Isles. Now here's probably the best base location in the desert biome of the Crystal Isles map. Now once again, deserts are not really my thing. I like having water and beautiful tropical foliage, but if you want to live in the desert, this plateau is actually a great base location for a mid to even alpha tribe. There's a lot of these little flat plateaus, lots of flat space to make it easy to build on, but this spot actually has a well location, so you can put a well here and have plenty of water, which is one of the most important things if you're living in the desert. So there's actually a lot of flat plateaus all around this area, but depending on how the spawns work out in the final version of the Crystal Isles map, you might love it and you might hate it. If you build here, right below your base will be the Griffin Trench, so you may have tons of griffins depending on how that works out. They might actually remove them, we'll see. And right next to that is actually the Hidden Dragon Oasis, so if there's still wyverns down there, it could be a quick, easy easy way to grab some wyvern eggs and get them back to your base, but you might also not like being so close to so much dangerous stuff. There's also lots of spots to build around all of these plateaus and a couple other small wells, but these should be some of the best base locations if you want to live in the desert area, and it'll be pretty much impossible to access by land unless you build some big ramps. So that's a pro and con for this base location. So now let's talk about a really epic Alpha Tribe base location in the Redwood Forest of the Crystal Isles map. So this is probably the best Alpha Tribe base location in the Redwood Forest on the Crystal Isles map. There is a massive plateau here, like a huge area, almost too big to control, but if you make just like 3 actual walls, you can control the entire area and keep it from being attacked. So this is where the ramp is, where it goes down to the river, and right down at this river is actually some great resources. You've got access to tons of beavers that spawn in this river, at least on the mod version, which means you've got tons of beaver dams, which you can get lots of silica pearls, wood, and cementing paste. There's also lots of beehives in the redwood trees. But the great thing about this base location is the entire thing is surrounded by a deep ravine, making it totally impassable by land. It's got a couple little bridges like this redwood tree, and if you can block off that tree, make a nice little wall there, you've got all of this area on this totally flat plateau. It's all yours. Now this just keeps going around and it eventually winds over to connect to the land. So you'll need one more wall right here, but it's a pretty thin strip of land to wall off, and then you've got so much space to spread out. So there's also a couple little areas where we've got some metal spawns on the inside of this plateau, but one of the best things about it is it actually has a well right here, which will allow you to get all the water you need. So that's actually a really helpful thing for any base. Now, you'll have to do some serious fighting to clear this space out. There's a lot of nasty characters out here, so the neighborhood is pretty rough. You will have to fight some stuff, and I've actually seen an Alpha Carno up here on this plateau. But once you've got that together, it's actually almost unraidable if you can control 3 little spots that access it. And then right here across this little bridge from that tree, there's a river, and if you follow that, actually very close to that plateau is a massive metal location, and this is all rich metal deposits. So you've got access to a lot of good metal, there's some good crystal nearby, and lots of good resources. So this is actually a great spot for a huge Alpha Tribe living in the Crystal Isles. Now, if you want to live in a cool cave in the Redwoods of the Crystal Isles, I've got another great base location for a mid to large tribe coming up next. Now here's another amazing base location for a mid to large tribe that wants to live in the Redwood Forest completely hidden inside a cave. Now these green crystals are really the only indicator that there's a base down here, but you've got some pretty good ramps that lead down to it, and actually a nice plateau where you can live above it. And there's some good water inside this base, but the best way to get to it by land is actually this tree, which is really easy to block off. So if you come up the canyon, up the tree, there's a lot of good metal resources right here, but here is the entrance to this cave. Now currently in the mod version there's some spiders and scorpions and lots of crystals which you may be able to harvest in the final version, and there's actually a lot of green gems in here too on the mod version, so that could be really helpful. There's lots of water in the bottom and actually lots of metal inside this cave too, so you've got ample resources if you're careful not to block the respawns, and there's plenty of space to build in here. The bottom tier has almost flat surfaces, and as long as it's not too infested with spiders and scorpions, this is going to be a really great place to spread out and really, make a big home. I'm not sure if these gigantic crystals will actually be harvestable in the final version, but we'll have to see how that pans out. Now there's only 2 entrances in this cave, and the other one is over here with all of this spider web. You actually get webbed if you go past it, which is kind of crazy, and it's also a great spot to get some mushrooms. But in my opinion, the best thing about this base location is that there's only 2 very small entrances which you can use to wall off and defend yourself quite easily, and it's very hard to find this base. So definitely if you're doing PvP, this is a great option for a base location on the Crystal Isles map. And the plateau above it is actually a great spot to spread out if you wanted to get a much bigger base right above your secret base in the cave. So now let's talk about a great base location in the jungle of the Crystal Isles, which is great for even a small tribe, but could be expanded up to a massive alpha tribe really easily. Now, this next base location is one of the best places to get metal and obsidian in the Crystal Isles map, at least as long as the spawns stay the same in the official version. So this plateau is huge. It goes all the way across the entire edge of the jungle, and as you can see, there is a lot of space there. This will probably be filled in with trees as a proper jungle once they actually finish the map, but this entire area is massive and it's full of obsidian, just covered in it. Now, you can take some of these high plateaus and make a small base if you're just wanting to have like a manufacturing facility, but look at all of this obsidian. It is just everywhere on this plateau. Every few feet you've got an obsidian node, and it goes all the way down. Now you could wall off certain sections in the middle and have a manufacturing facility here, or you could take over the entire plateau. There's just a couple of access points that lead up to this plateau, and aside from that, it's basically only accessible by air. And this spot up here is actually especially nice because it has a nice little waterfall right below this plateau up here, and there's actually a lot of rich metal nodes strewn around this hill, so it's a great spot to pick up tons of metal, especially if you put a base over here right next to this waterfall. You'll have a good water supply. Just be careful you don't block too much of the metal, and you've got a pretty nice setup. Now, this is big enough for an entire alpha tribe to spread out across this whole plateau, but here's the location. You can pretty much do whatever you want here, but be careful because you will be blocking spawn locations for some amazing resources if you spread out too far. So I've showed you a lot of very practical and resource-rich locations to build a base, but let me show you one of the most beautiful base locations in the entire Crystal Isles map. So I've showed you a lot of really practical base locations in the Crystal Isles map, but this is one of the most beautiful base locations in the entire Crystal Isles. It is just stunning, and it's right on the edge of the cherry blossom forest and the jungle, so you've got a lot of really picturesque trees. It's right on the edge of the floating islands, so this is definitely going to be some of the most scenic views you can get. And it really doesn't get better than this stream and beautiful little ponds and this waterfall. Now, aside from being aesthetically beautiful, it's actually got a lot of really good resources up here. There's a lot of these orange crystals, which I believe will be harvestable on the final version. We'll have to find out, but it's actually relatively well hidden. It's certain places you can build as long as you leave some of the trees up, and there's a lot of really helpful resources. So this lower stream actually has quite a few pearls and lots of clams that you can gather, and there's quite a few rich metal nodes down here too. So right at the base of the waterfall you can see all these glowing clams down there, and you'll actually notice that underneath this little cavern here is a very secluded spot that's got some metal. It's got some places you can build a pretty nice little base. There's quite a bit of pearls right under here, but it's actually very well hidden, so it's actually not a bad place to hide a base in plain sight. There's also a lot of little extra crystals down there, and there's some spaces that are very tightly wedged underneath this overhang that'll make it really hard to see any bases that you put here. But there's actually quite a bit of hidden metal nodes all the way around here. There's also some little hidden ledges down here that make pretty good hiding spots if you want to stash some stuff. And this whole island is just a lot of space to spread out and build a huge base. So if you want to live in the floating isles, this is actually one of the cooler places to live. And another nice feature is this pond actually has a lot of cattails around it, which if they stay, you'll be able to get plant species X from them, and that's pretty helpful. There's also quite a bit of regular crystal up here and a lot of mushrooms, so definitely going to be very helpful if you live up here. Now, you might have to deal with some Argent Avis, and there may even be some aggressive dragons living up here, so definitely be warned. You'll have to check and see what things actually spawn here in the final version. But if nothing else, this is a really great vacation spot to build a picturesque castle in the sky. Now, this next spot will be amazing or terrible depending on what actually ends up spawning here in the official version. But either way, it's a really cool base location. So this next base location is more of a base area, but underneath the biggest of the floating islands is a hidden cave that is basically a massive underground cavern with a huge forest inside. And as you can see, it is littered with metal and crystal, one of the best locations to get that. Now, it's a beautiful area, and there's a lot of upper ledges that you can build bases on, and it's just a massive cavern that spreads out all over the place back here. It's pretty open, so you're pretty open to being discovered and attacked if people come down here. And if it stays the same as this version, there may actually be several wyverns flying around out here too. So you could have to deal with a lot of dangerous stuff. Right now it's infested with rock drakes, but they are going to fix that. But, this whole cavern is a cool place to explore. There's a lot of little nooks and crannies in here, a lot of plateaus that you can build on, and the whole thing is just hidden inside a floating island, so it's only accessible by air, and that's going to cut off a lot of people that might attack you. Now, this is going to be a really cool area to live, but we'll have to see what spawns in here to figure out if it's really going to be someplace you want to live. So make sure you subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to enable all notifications, because I will be doing an updated version of this video on the best base locations in the Crystal Isles map once we get the official version, and I'll be able to tell you whether this place is amazing or terrible depending on what spawns in here. But either way, there's lots of good resources and there's a water supply, so it's a great place for a huge base. And here's the location to one of the entrances. Now the final base location I'll show you is more of a runner-up. It's actually a better outpost location, but there are some amazing resources here, and this is going to be the easiest and best way to get all the oil you could possibly ever use, and it's a pretty secure location too, so this should actually be pretty helpful. Even if you don't make a main base here, this is actually a great spot to get an oil gathering outpost. Now this last base location is really more of an outpost location, but we're right here, right on the edge of the cherry blossom forest. It's a beautiful area, and you've got a great view. And actually right here at the edge of this river, it is full of beavers, tons of beaver dams, so you can loot those for lots of cementing paste, silica pearls, and wood. And that's a pretty nice thing right here. But what I am most interested in is this little tiny island here. It's kind of in the edge of the tundra area. But check these out. These are not boulders. These are massive oil deposits. If you harvest these, you will get stupid amounts of oil. And there's also, it looks like, some sulfur, and there's actually a decent amount of obsidian down here too. And a lot of crystal at the base of this mountain and wrapped all around these rocks. But if you put a base on the very top of this plateau, sure, you're going to have to deal with some Argent Avis attacks, but it's going to be pretty secure and hard for stuff to attack you. You might be blocking some resource spawns, but this is actually a pretty great place, and if you build something nearby, you can get ridiculous amounts of oil and basically never run out of gasoline for the rest of your game. Well, I really hope my guide to the top 15 best base locations in the Crystal Isles map was helpful for you. I plan to make a new guide on the best base locations in the official Crystal Isles map once that is released, so check back later for that guide. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and ring the bell for all notifications so you will be notified when that guide comes out, along with tons of other helpful new guides, tips, tricks, live streams, and let's plays that I will be making when the official Crystal Isles map comes out. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and drop a comment to tell me which of these base locations are your favorites and where you plan to live when the Crystal Isles is officially released. I'd love to find out which are the most popular base locations. Also, if you know of any other epic base locations I have not covered in this guide, it would help a lot of people if you share the coordinates so I can add to my list of the best base locations in the Crystal Isles on the next guide. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you very soon on the next Crystal Isles guide. Thank you so much for watching this video from the Ark Survival Guide. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. That helps us so much. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to enable all notifications, because we have lots of awesome new Ark videos and live streams coming soon, and you won't want to miss any of them. You can do so many awesome things in Ark, but it is really hard to figure out on your own. Check out the links at the end of this video to browse our huge library of fun, clean, and helpful Ark guides, tips, tricks, live streams, and Let's Plays. If you would like to earn awesome rewards while supporting this channel, click the join button or link next to the subscribe button to learn more about our new channel memberships. You can also join our awesome Discord community at the link in the description of this video or on top of the channel homepage. And if you want to see my wife and I play lots of other fun video games together, visit our other YouTube channel, The Console Co-op Couple, using the link in the video description or in the channel homepage. And now I want to give a shout out to some of the biggest supporters of this channel: Sabo0283, Cole Parmenter, Wolfgirl Be Like, Austin Nagel, Kelly Razak, Black Silver Ride, and Emmy Fisher. You guys are all awesome, and we so appreciate your support. Now, if you'd like to be a monthly supporter and get a shout out at the end of our videos, check out the join button next to the subscribe button for more information about that. And for everyone else, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.